All right, folks, now we need to move on to something we have been talking about for the last couple weeks. Al and I are going to do our review of the most recent Wes Anderson film, The Phoenician Scheme.
Yes.
Starring Benicio del Toro, Michael Cera, Mia Threppleton, which I don't think I've ever seen her in anything.
I think this is her first thing.
She was really
her first
good.
big thing, yeah.
And sprinkling with all of the other actors that like to work with Wes Anderson.
And then the Wes Anderson cavalcade of players.
Yes. Which I do still, it catches me off guard, but I appreciate the fact that Tom Hanks is one of them now.
I like that Tom Hanks is one of them in the same way that I get a little weirded out that Scarlett Johansson is one of them. I don't know that she... It's like when Bruce Willis showed up in...
Moonrise Kingdom?
I almost called it Strange Wilderness.
Yeah.
In Moonrise Kingdom. And you're just like, Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
I don't know that he fits this. And it may have just been her role in this movie, but man, did ScarJo stick out. And I was like, why are you here?
She stuck out, but I think she earned her street cred in Asteroid City.
Yeah.
You know, like she really nailed that character, and I think he could be like, okay.
Yeah. No, it was definitely just one of those, like, I get why everybody else is here. I don't get why you're here.
Yeah.
And, but again, she also had a role that was just like, that was kind of that role.
Yeah,
was
super
just like,
in and out quick.
What does this mean?
Yeah.
So, to get into the nits and grits of
Yes.
this, the Phoenician Scheme revolves around, I can't remember his fucking name.
Zsa Zsa Corda.
Zsa Zsa Corda, yes.
Which is Benicio del Toro's character.
Yes.
Kind of like a... do I want to say he's the guy that runs Fox News? So I can't...
Roger Ailes?
No, not Roger Ailes. The Rupert Murdoch.
Yeah, Rupert Murdoch.
He's kind of like a Rupert Murdoch.
He's not a philanthropist. He's a philanthropist.
Yes.
He does terrible things for the community.
Horrible things.
He's just an industrialist.
Yes.
He's an industrialist who has crashed a ton of times. The beginning of the movie is him surviving an assassination attempt.
Which is the funny through line throughout this movie.
It's an ongoing through line. All right. The only way to do this is to come out and say it. I don't know if I like this movie very much. I wanted to because it's a Wes Anderson movie. I don't know how much I really love this movie.
Glad you said that, because I'm in the same boat.
It's not Darjeeling Limited, where you're watching and you're just like, this feels like I'm wasting my time. But in the au revoir of Wes Anderson, this is much closer to a Steve Zissou than it is to a Royal Tenenbaums.
We'll see.
Which isn't to say that Steve Zissou is bad.
But this is why I push back against the Steve Zissou comparison, because I was going to use that as an example also, to where this movie is a Wes Anderson movie with Wes Anderson characters that don't really stand out.
Yeah.
But you look at a movie like Life Aquatic or The Royal Tenenbaums or even Asteroid City, you have those quirky Wes Anderson characters, but they stand out.
Well,
these seem very like Wes Anderson characters.
This seems like it almost seems like a paint by numbers Wes Anderson piece.
Yes. That's a better way of what I was trying to say.
Of just like, and this goes here because it's Wes Anderson.
Yes.
And this goes here because it's Wes Anderson. And it never feels like something like Grand Budapest or Asteroid City, which we both liked but got middling reviews, or even French Dispatch, where it felt like there was a real momentum to the story driving it forward. The momentum here is driven by the Phoenician Scheme. And by the end of the Phoenician Scheme, the most interesting thing about it as a scheme is how it's all laid out in boxes.
Yeah.
That was the most interesting aspect of it. By the end of it, I was just like, what was the fucking point of all of this?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the point, but as me and Kelly have both agreed, this is very close to a Christopher Nolan movie in that it almost demands a second watch. And like a bad Christopher Nolan movie, you really don't want to give it that second watch.
No, I agree with you.
You almost have to in order to understand what anything truly means. And yet, I can't imagine sitting down and rewatching this. If it gets into my pantheon, it would only be as a collector's item to be like, I have all of the Wes Anderson movies. But I don't have Bottle Rocket, and I don't have Darjeeling Limited, and I probably won't have Phoenician Scheme because it's fine. It's a perfectly fine C+.
Yes.
And a C+ Wes Anderson is still like a B- anybody else. But
it's a safe Wes Anderson film that we've seen before.
Yeah.
Like, that's...
But without some of the Wes Andersonisms that you need. You know, the father-child dynamic would have served the movie better if it was closer to Rushmore than it is to what it ended up being. Which isn't to say that it's bad. Mia Trepleton is...
She's great.
She's really good.
That's his daughter.
She's a standout element of the entire story. Yes. She is this nun in training who is summoned back to Zsa Zsa's side to be the executor of his estate because he's starting to realize that one of these assassination attempts is going to work.
Which we find out have been enacted by his brother.
Yes.
A very interestingly bearded...
very interesting costumed
Benedict
Cumberbatch. And another character where I got to the end of his storyline and I was just like, okay.
Yeah, I didn't get the costume.
I didn't get a lot of it.
It was like... We want to make him visually quirky.
Yeah.
But in a weird, like, Rasputin type of way.
Yeah.
And like, I wasn't overly...
There were so many elements of this movie that I just felt like I cannot possibly grapple with all of it.
Yes.
I think the Michael Cera aspect of it is very key to this. It's like how for so long... people have been like, oh, Michael Cera should be in Wes Anderson movies. They're a perfect match. Their puzzle pieces fit together perfectly. And so now we have Michael Cera in a Wes Anderson movie, and it's kind of nothing.
Yeah.
It kind of amounts to almost nothing.
Yeah.
To the point where the character does a full 360 halfway through the movie. And you're still left being like, this means nothing to me.
Yeah.
I know less about this character now, and I don't understand anything about them, and they're really integral to what's going on, and I just can't be bothered to care.
The only thing I liked about the 360 is when he did the 360 like change, the way they had him standing with the coat over it and like the cigarette. I thought like the first time I saw that, I thought, oh, okay, that's pretty funny. But then after that, I was like...
After that initial moment, you're like, okay, and
really
what does this mean?
Yeah.
Nothing. It means as much to Bjorn Carlson, the first version, as it does to the second one.
And like their dream sequences in heaven...
I like the dream sequences in heaven a lot. That was the one moment in the movie where I was like, okay, I'm seeing it. I'm seeing what I wanted out of this movie. So as Zsa Zsa goes through all these assassination attempts, he keeps on going back to heaven. And kind of reviewing his life, as it were.
Yes.
And in heaven, you have a lot of the Wes Anderson big swingers.
You have...
including
Bill Murray as God. Which is awesome.
Which is like, I saw that and I was like, I want to watch this whole movie with Bill Murray as God. Like, it would mean more to me if this movie was... If it began with Zsa Zsa dying and then God showing him all the things that led up to his death, that would mean more than what we end up getting.
But see, I agree with you where I like the scenes in heaven. The part that I didn't like about them is that, to me, they didn't fit in the movie.
They felt like they were from a different movie to the point where...
Absolutely.
I, at times, wondered if these weren't offcuts from The French Dispatch, because Benicio del Toro looked like he did in The French Dispatch.
Yes, he did.
And that was a black and white movie.
Yes.
And so I kind of wondered, are these part of something else?
Interesting.
And they've been kind of cobbled into this other thing. It was like, we had this and it didn't fit in the Dispatch, but I like it so much that I'm going to make another thing and we're going to put it in that thing.
Interesting. I never thought that.
Again, I really like those sequences. I like F. Murray Abraham at the gates of heaven.
Oh, yeah.
And Willem Dafoe being like this weirdo. I really love that. And when Bill Murray shows up as God, I was like, why hasn't Bill Murray played God before? Yeah. This is what he should be doing.
And honestly, in the Wes Anderson universe, he is God.
He should be God.
Yeah.
And so like those were the moments that lit me up inside.
Yeah.
And then you would just go back to something else.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of left being like, I don't get it. I want to get it, and you're a genius, and I want to sit here and say you're a genius. But if I'm honest, the only reason I would say that is because of previous work, not this work. I wouldn't say it about this piece.
It's just there were a lot of bits and pieces of this movie that seemed like they were taken from other Wes Anderson movies and just not done as well.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the part that I was a little like...
Yeah, like there are definitely Wes Anderson elements. The 13 boys that Zsa Zsa has bore but rejected.
Yes.
And the one that fires flaming arrows at things. I was like, okay, this is Wes Anderson. This is very Wes Anderson lunacy.
That scene reminded me a lot of the Royal Tenenbaums.
I love the scene with Riz Ahmed, Tom Hanks, and Bryan Cranston. I fucking love that scene. When that scene devolves into a basketball match of horse, I was like, this is fucking great. This is everything we want. And so I love that moment. But then you get into Richard Ayoade as a revolutionary and Scarlett Johansson as a beatnik. And you're just kind of left being like...
Doesn't she play his cousin?
They refer to her as his cousin, but they're not related because they do get married.
Yes.
And so it's like they're cousins in everything but blood, but they get married almost as a political appointment kind of thing. Like it's advantageous for both of them to be married to each other.
Like that whole scenario.
And Scarlett Johansson has like this compound that she's trying to keep out of government hands. And none of this matters because we are gone as soon as we get there.
Yeah.
Like I thought I slept through that scene and had to rewind because I fell asleep twice during this movie. Another thing that I wish I couldn't say, but I have to admit.
That's always the worst thing.
And so I thought like, oh, I must have missed something with Scarlett Johansson. I rewind. No, there's just not anything there.
Yeah.
They show up at her compound. Zsa Zsa is like, we should get married. And Scarlett Johansson is like, I guess so. And then that's it. And they leave. She says, I won't help you pay for anything. And then he has to go.
Yeah.
That's like this whole movie is about Zsa Zsa and his daughter going around and trying to raise funds for the Phoenician Scheme. And so they keep on going around trying to find people to give them money, and someone has to cover the gap. And the gap is the amount of money that's left over that hasn't been funded yet. And the gap keeps getting bigger, and we're going to pawn this gap off on Uncle Newbar, who is Benedict Cumberbatch's character. And so you're just meeting these people that Zsa Zsa is trying to get money from, and some of them are great. That's why we meet Riz Ahmed. That's why we meet Tom Hanks and Bryan Cranston. That scene is, to me, it's fucking hilarious.
When that first you see Tom Hanks, and then you see a guy behind him handing him papers, and it's like, is that Bryan fucking Cranston? Yeah. And it's like, holy shit.
Well, and then they have this argument. And I love when it devolves into arguments. I was talking to my dad recently about Andor, and he was trying to parse the scene with the TIE fighter and how, like, he came to the same conclusion we did, which is that this is a chance to see what happens when a revolution doesn't have a distinct leader. And I was like, well, yeah, but we saw that in the first season, so I don't know what it matters in Andor season 2. And plus, the arguing is really annoying. The arguing here is hilarious.
Oh, it's so fucking
funny.
And
it serves a purpose. And every time it happens, it's fucking funny.
Yeah.
It's fucking funny to watch Zsa Zsa and X person shouting over each other about who's going to cover what. And the idea that this would be solved by a game of basketball like we did last time. And when Bryan Cranston comes out and he's wearing the Stanford shirt and the goggles, the safety goggles, I'm like, this is fucking great. I love this. And then like they call each shot, and it's like pretty much just like they throw it up and it goes in. And this scene is great.
And that's the problem with this movie, is it did have a lot of great scenes. Like, I'll be honest, my favorite part of the movie was that end scene where he's running the cafe with his daughter.
Yeah.
I thought that was awesome. But why did we have all this other convoluted
What was all the other bullshit in between?
And it is one of those weird movies that it's typically the glue that lets the movie down. Here, the glue is the best part.
Yeah.
It's the pieces that didn't really fit.
Well, and they're also like, I'm just thinking about this now, but I'm trying to think in terms of a Wes Anderson movie of an equivalent. And I go back to Grand Budapest because I think it's, of his most recent films, his best.
Oh,
I would still argue,
it's my favorite of all of us.
I would still argue probably Royal Tenenbaums is his best film, but I think Grand Budapest is, if it's not his best film, it's right up there. That movie has an undercurrent of sadness throughout the
absolutely.
entire thing. We meet characters, and F. Murray Abraham is like, oh yeah, I loved my wife. She died with my son from the fever, you know, and we meet Ray Fiennes' character, and like, we find out all these things about him, and by the end of the movie, we find out how he dies. And you never get there with any of these characters. There never seems to be this Paul, this moment of, in death we can reflect on what happens, and instead we're just always running from death. And so there's never a chance for any of the characters to really gel or understand, even when moments happen, like when Liesel the nun is told by Hope Davis, of all people, Mother Superior, that she is too much of a rich girl to be a nun. I was like, first off, I don't see that in her characteristics. The things that you're citing are all gifts that she's gotten in the last 48 hours. And two, it doesn't make sense within the body of the character. It feels like this should mean more. This is a minor death to this character, and it doesn't seem like it means anything. When Bjorn is shown to be a double agent, it doesn't mean anything. And then when Bjorn becomes a triple agent, it also doesn't mean anything. Bjorn takes Zsa Zsa to the room with the people that have been fucking with his life, and nothing happens. And you're just kind of like, there must be something here, but I don't get it. Like, that's the benefit of the doubt of the artist, is like, Wes Anderson is such a talented filmmaker that I have to assume there's something here, and I'm just not getting it. But I could easily see someone without that reverence just being like, no, it's just a bad movie. He just made a bad movie. He's human like anybody else, and he made a bad movie.
It's the problem with an auteur like him. That there's going to be times that he's going to get into his own head and into his own ego, and he's going to make something that, let's call this the Tenant. It's like,
that was exactly what I was thinking of.
It's in like, that same ball where it's like, okay, it's you're throwing all of your quirkiness together and trying to make it all fit, and it's just not fitting.
In the same way, when I say a bad Christopher Nolan movie that you have to watch twice, that is Tenet. That's a non-veiled reference to Tenet. It's a bad movie that in order to get anything out of you have to sit through it twice. But why in God's name would you sit through it twice? And I agree. It is the closest comparison to this of just like, the elements are there. The feeling is there.
Some of the scenes are there.
Some of the scenes are there. The aspect ratio is right. The opening credits are really good, where it's just his bathroom and all the people coming in and out in his hospital bathroom. And all. There's some really good stuff here. The scene where he finally invites the boys down because Liesel insists that he bond with his children, and there's a corner leaking. And one of the kids is like, I thought you were rich. And he, flags down the butler, and he's like, go get that fixed. And it's like, this is what we want. This is what we want, but we don't get a consistency. And I go back to characters like Richard Ayoade, like Benedict Cumberbatch, like Scarlett Johansson, where they're introduced. I love Jeffrey Wright. What the fuck was Jeffrey Wright's purpose in this movie? He's not playing a Jeffrey Wright character.
No.
He's not doing a Jeffrey Wright thing.
No.
He's not doing a Wes Anderson thing. He's kind of doing like this too cool for school thing. But the entire time you're just like, I don't get this. This seems like what an American is to a European. This is like what an American would be. I don't get it. I don't understand. And again, by the end of the movie, you don't even understand what the Phoenician Scheme is. It's revealed to be a dam, but to what end? What does it serve? What does it do?
Well, that's the thing, is the purpose of it changes throughout the movie to where at the end it's almost like a humanitarian thing. Because you're right, though. It jumps to that final scene without really going into too much detail. It's almost like the briefcase in Pulp Fiction, where it's like, we have this thing we're going to tell you about, but we're not going to really tell you what it is.
Yeah, the scheme is 100% a MacGuffin in this movie, but it's a MacGuffin, and like, a MacGuffin has to be given a great deal of importance without being important to the plot. But if you look at the film in North by Northwest, or I'm trying to think of what it is in Rear Window that they find in the man's apartment, and they have to keep going back for. They find like his wife's dress or something. Like that, Those are elements that build you to this end spot, right? So like, even though Cary Grant running after the film in North by Northwest isn't like important, it's more just a thing to drive him to do certain things. It doesn't feel like a mystery in that sense. It feels like a destination. Here, this didn't feel like a destination. This felt like a goal.
Okay.
And I don't know if a goal can be a MacGuffin, because inherently a MacGuffin can't mean anything to the plot. It is something of desire that the character will do anything for, but it can never be achieved. And to me, that sparks more of, I can see how that could be a goal, but I think if you make it a non-tangible thing, then it does become kind of a disappointment to the audience, or at least has the possibility of becoming a disappointment to the audience. Because I didn't dislike that scene at the end of the movie where they open up a restaurant after everything goes up in smoke. But I also kind of felt like, if this was where we were going, we should have gotten here in a better way.
Yeah.
There should have been a better way to get here than this, especially since I don't understand why he lost all of his money on this thing. What was it for? What happened to all the other investors? If this was so important to all these other people, why did it fall through? You know, you talked about a hydroelectrical dam, and we meet like this Middle Eastern prince and his family and all these investors. The Tom Hanks and Bryan Cranston are like these two Vanderbilt train guys who are building this railroad. And you're ultimately like, so if everybody's so into this and so desirous of it and of it happening, why does it seem like nobody cares when it falls through?
Yeah.
It seems like Riz Ahmed, who is great in the movie, should care a lot about this not running through. It seems like him and his people would be the lead beneficiaries of it. Scarlett Johansson should care about this because it seems like she was going to benefit by having this power station nearby. And none of it matters.
Yeah.
You know, Richard Ayoade has this funny thing where he does violent things, and then he says that, you know, we're taking this money in name of the people or whatever. And you know, it's fine, but you're ultimately, when he shows up again in the second half of the movie, you're like, but why? But why are you here?
Yeah.
What do you mean to anything? Why are you on the plane? What's happening?
Yeah.
And ultimately, none of it matters. And if you care about any of that stuff, if you want these threads to come together, it needs to matter. You know, it'd be like if Ray Fiennes gets locked up in prison and then kind of gets out accidentally.
Yeah.
And you're just like, but what was the point of that? We had to go through all the things of Saoirse Ronan making the cakes and the box being delivered and Harvey Keitel and the other prisoners and all these other things. And because we go through all those things, once he gets out, it means more to us. You don't get that here.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And I'm glad you keep bringing up Grand Budapest Hotel, because the Benicio del Toro character reminded me a lot of the Ray Fiennes character, but the Ray Fiennes character had more depth and
heart.
And more heart, and I connected more. I never truly connected with Benicio del Toro's character until that final scene, and even then, he never really changed his tone or tenor. It just put him in a different environment, which was nice to see.
It almost felt like he was resigned to whatever his life was going to be. And so the scheme was him trying to guide his life in some way, but he also had this resignation that it was never going to happen.
Yeah.
And like, again, Grand Budapest, we meet Ray Fiennes' character, and we find out that he sleeps with these older women and schmoozes them and all these other things, and he busts Tilda Swinton out the door, and he goes through and like in this quiet moment, he's talking about how she's this great woman and wonderful in bed. And what was she worried about? And she was shaking like a shitting dog. And it's this devolving of this character where like you see the way that he presents himself, but by the end of that series of statements, you also see what he's really thinking about.
Yep.
Not the sugar-coated version that he presents to everybody, but the actuality. And again, you don't get that here.
No, not at all. So, yeah, I think I'm going to agree with your scoring-wise. I might put it as a C. I
have it like a C-. I want
still
to be good,
like enough of some of the scenes that we talked about that I will leave it at... I can't drop it down much lower.
Yeah, like, I don't want to drop a Wes Anderson piece of any kind under a C. Like, I just don't. I don't
want to. Like you said,
to.
even a bad Wes Anderson movie is better than a
most
good Marvel movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like...
Going back to our lampooning of W.S. Anderson, a Wes Anderson movie has about 10 score points just out of the gate.
Yeah, just out of the
on
gate.
a W.S.
Bill
Anderson
Murray is
movie.
God right there.
Exactly. So, like, you don't want to sit here and be like, yes,
Yeah.
Resident Evil and the Phoenician Scheme. Same score.
Yeah.
You don't.
So pretty much what it boils down to, folks, is if you're trying to get into Wes Anderson movies, this
Don't start
probably
here.
isn't the one to start with.
Don't start here.
Yeah, start with the Royal Tenenbaums, or even start at the beginning with Rushmore.
I would say start with Rushmore.
Yeah.
You can start at the very beginning with Bottle Rocket. I think you can skip Bottle Rocket.
Yeah, I think that one would be a good coming back to later.
You come back and you're like, wow, this is where he started. He didn't even have his perfect right angles or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So start with Rushmore. That's where it really begins. If you've never seen it, you have to see Grand Budapest Hotel.
Oh, yeah. It's my favorite by far.
I think French Dispatch gets a short shrift. I also think Asteroid City got a short shrift.
Oh,
so, like,
hugely, yeah.
I think those are both great movies, but, like, it's Royal Tenenbaums, it's Grand Budapest, it's Rushmore. Those are the three Wes Anderson movies that you have to see.
You have to see. And The Fantastic Mr. Fox.
And the Fantastic...
How
could I forget about Fantastic Mr. Fox?
All right, folks. So we hope you enjoyed that. That was NerdPod Generations, episode 168. And we are looking forward to coming back next week for 169, which we're talking about making a big TV
It's
show.
a TV
possibly.
day. So we got two beings that struggle to communicate with humans that are desperately in need to communicate with humans.
It's a nice little theme there.
The Sandman and the Murderbot.
And the Murderbot. So hopefully we'll be able to get to everything in the next week's show, because I know we've been pushing Murderbot.
Yeah,
Murderbot is like our James Bond.
Yeah.
We've been pushing it
It
down.
just keeps every year we have one. We're like, oh, we'll do this, and then we start prepping for it. And this is how it always happens. We get to like the May-June era, and we're like, oh, we kind of ran out of things to talk about. Let's start prepping something out for future shows.
Yes.
And so we pick a thing, and we're like, we're going to do this. This is what we're going to do for future shows. And then something always fucking comes up.
Yeah.
We always are like, oh, summer's going to be slow. There's not going to be anything. And then something always fucking comes up.
Well, and last week we were going to talk the Phoenician Scheme last week,
Yeah.
but then we
But
had
the
our
craziest
little giant
thing
tribe at
happened.
the beginning, and then there you go.
The craziest thing happened. No, Thunderbolts is going to drop this week, and we're going to be like, oh, Murderbot, back to the line. I don't know
I'll
if it
be
is.
honest, I thought that same thing. It'll drop on Disney Plus, and
Yeah.
we'll be like, well, shit.
Well, now we have to, and then we're going to have to see Fantastic Four, because the drips on the spoiler leak for Fantastic Four are worse than most of the ones I've seen. Most of the Marvel movies recently, the leaking spoilers aren't too bad, but this one is like, oh, there's a crack in the ceiling, and if we're not careful, it's going to fall in.
But and quite honestly, I just don't give a shit.
I don't want to give a shit. It would be an enormous lie for me to say that I don't give a shit. Because I do, and I don't want to, and I really don't want to. But God help me.
You have to.
I can't help it.
Hey, and you know what we're getting close to? NFL preview show.
I know, it's right around the corner.
That is very fucking close.
I already have my pick for the season.
Oh, I haven't even...
Admittedly,
I'm starting to go through things, but
admittedly, it's not hard because it's been my my sentimental choice for the last few years.
Yes.
Because for a long time there, when you said my pick for the Super Bowl is the Detroit Lions versus the Buffalo Bills, it was a fucking joke. It was a fucking joke every year. I would say that's my Super Bowl pick because that's who I want to play.
Yeah.
And for the first time in a long time, well, no, for the second time in a long time.
Hey, it'll happen if both teams can get out of their own way.
And if the refs go away, that was another thing that I didn't get to talk about. I was going to talk about NFL collusion and corruption today.
We'll have to put that all in.
It's all for another time.
Let's set it in stone in like 3 weeks. We'll do our NFL preview show.
By then, there will be even more news on the NFL corruption scandal.
And maybe
because it's literally like every 2 weeks more stuff comes out.
And we might even see Micah Parsons on a different team.
I don't hope so if he's not in the AFC, but if he's not, good for you, dude. Get out of there.
Seriously. All right, so NerdPod Generations 168 is in the books. Once again, if you want to know more about us, go to nerdpodgen.com. And Al, who does our music and artwork?
Anywhere but the AFC, Micah. Anywhere but the AFC. I hear that Los Angeles, California is just fucking great right about now. Or you could come to Buffalo. I'll give you 2 firsts for Micah. Yeah. I'll give you 2 firsts. No lie. No
out
lie.
there with Bosa.
Yeah.
That'd be
right?
pretty nice.
I'm not convinced on Joey Bosa, but we're going to see.
Hey.
We're going to see. That's a political thing. That
Yes.
The politics is what's not convincing me on Joey
I
Bosa.
can see that.
And the injury history. Injury history is also concerned.
Yeah.
Our art is by Kortney Howell. Our music is by Brendan Williams and James Connolly.
The Hydra is always there.
I am Alfred Judson.
And I'm Steve Taylor.
And until next week, friends and enemies, we'll try and get it together,
Peace.
but you and I both know
No
we're not going
promises, no
to.
goddamn promises.
Have a good week.